Hi, Von.
Hi, Kat.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm
Good.
good.
Okay. This is a pivotal, foundational, fundamental topic today.
Fundamental.
And I'm surprised we didn't start this because really this is so true to what we both do, something that we both place a lot of emphasis on. And that is the importance of self-awareness in your own mental health. And just the most simple, basic understanding of that is, for me, is that it's the awareness, the ability to reflect on your own mental health, okay, and have some distance from it. What I mean by that is to understand the role that your thoughts play, how, you feel because you're thinking things and the connection between the two, that the events in the real world can't force you to feel a particular way. The way you view it and the lens in which you experience it is filtered through your thinking. And so when we create this self-awareness of our experiences, we realize that nothing in the outside world can hurt us, okay, unless we let it,
Yeah.
unless we think it into a problem. And that's not to say there are not hard things and obstacles and challenges and, of course, and setbacks and disappointments. That's not the point. But self-awareness and having the self-awareness allows us to reflect on our lives and experiences, to learn from them, to grow, to ground, and to lead more fulfilling lives than potentially zero self-awareness. Okay? So what does it mean to you? You might describe it differently.
So I think when I think about self-awareness, it's very much about being self-orientated versus others-orientated. And I think that if you are a person that is more self-orientated, you make decisions about your actions and your thoughts and your behaviors. But when you're more others-orientated, you don't. You think about their actions and their behavior.
Unaware.
Yeah,
Like you become, yeah.
And you focus more on, but you also focus more on their behavior and self-referencing. Or what are they thinking? Or what I'm thinking, they must be thinking.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. So when you become more of a self-orientated person, you can have more of a sort of internal frame of reference and understand a little bit more about also your triggers. The triggers of sometimes what other people might say and how you react to that as well. I think that's...
And I think it's a type of concept. It's a type of concept that you can notice it in its absence. Like you notice a person that is unaware of themselves.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So you notice it when it's not there. When someone has self-awareness, they can see how they played into a situation. Versus someone that's unself-aware, it's almost as if they feel like the world is happening to them at all times. They can't see how they've contributed to X, Y, Z.
Yeah, I think that word there, that how they contributed to that is quite key. When you have a problem or a problem space, I'm a strong believer in that happened the way that it did because of the decisions that you made. Unaware, aware kind of pinpoints you to the right decisions or the wrong decisions. And I think I see this in a lot of people that I work with and whatnot, that some people just don't see that about themselves. That do you not see how that led you? The question, do you not see how that led you to that problem?
I think part and parcel of this, and like you're touching on it now, is that point in your life, I think I was in my 20s, when you realize that if you take full responsibility for your life, it's like a game changer. Meaning, if I kept blaming, I don't know, my parents or the economy or my boss or my sister or my spouse, if you keep blaming the outside world for things that are happening in your world, and you just reverse it and are like, no, I'm showing up, I'm taking 100% responsibility because I can control my reaction, I can control the choices that I make, the people I associate with, the jobs that I do, and so on. And when you become self-aware, you bring yourself into awareness in whatever dynamic that you are in. And I want to say to our listeners, there are ways that you can increase your own self-awareness. Some are less daunting than others. One of the most daunting ones, and I still cringe doing this, you can ask a trusted colleague, you can ask your spouse, you can ask a partner, a best friend, what are my blind spots?
Yeah, this is very interesting, and it can also be very
mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing for you, especially if you are not very self-aware in this area. If you have a relationship, you have relationship problems. If you have a job, you have job problems. If you have friends, you have friend problems. If you have kids, you have kid problems. And it's how we deal with those problems and the decisions that we make around those problems that show us how much mental awareness that we have. Yeah.
But I think I want to just give a caveat to them because you need to really be in a safe, secure, emotional space. Do not do this when you're feeling a bit wobbly and vulnerable, because obviously you're inviting constructive criticism into your life.
But you could confide in a close friend and just some of the statements you could say are, listen, I want to go on a bit of a journey, a bit of a mental health awareness journey.
3 things that you think it would be helpful for me to know. Because there's a really massive caveat. And that is, like, nothing is static. So whatever they're going to say to you, this is not a fixed thing that you can't change or that doesn't evolve on its own. Or I am not the same person as I was 10 years ago. My mental space, my attitude, it changes, it evolves because nothing doesn't evolve.
Yeah, it's like a SWOT analysis. My strengths, my weaknesses, where you think I'm not taking opportunities where I should, and where you see threats for me.
Interesting. I'm just like, what flashed into my mind is like when you do, like I did this course and it was like strengths-based coaching, and obviously working with young people, I care deeply that we are focusing on their strengths, particularly at that age, because there is a disproportionate amount of no's that they hear growing up, and we have to direct them to what they're good at. Focusing on deficits, I just think, is such an outdated idea. So I want to be careful here, because this is not an exercise in, if I just correct these 3 things, then I'm going to be a perfect human. No. This is more about, where am I falling into thinking traps that I don't even know I'm falling into? Yeah. Like for me, my best friend is on speed dial. Every time I have a crisis, that was so dramatic.
I know
it's really low level.
Yep.
But every time I'm thrown by something my kids do and so on, I'm on speed dial to her. Versus every time she has a, in inverted commas, crisis to do with her boyfriend, she's on a speed dial to me, because we can see each other's vulnerabilities and triggers being played out.
Yep.
So the other person is not triggered by that, but they can help buffer you. So I don't want our listeners to start compiling this list of all the areas that they're falling short in. This is definitely not what this exercise is about.
It's not for them to compile. It's for them to have an open conversation with the people that know them the best. If you've had a good friend that's been around with you for 5-10 years, I can assure you that she wouldn't be around. Yeah. He or she wouldn't be around if you weren't a great person.
That's the truth.
We both have, everyone has qualities and traits that complement. Maybe they're a great listener, but I'm not, or they're a great at this, and that's why we partner up with people. Yeah. Balance it out. And I think if you are open to hearing from a close, good friend, not someone that you just met last weekend at a brunch.
Please don't do that.
In the bathroom.
Or at brunch, please don't do that. Not the time.
But you could say to the person where you're so confident that no matter what they say, you probably know that they've got your best interest.
That's the truth.
At heart. You would not not with kids. You don't do this with kids. But with adults, you can easily say to your friend, let's unpack this together. Yeah. These are your strengths. Yeah. These are your weaknesses. And it could be, I don't feel that. And you could say, you are a great, kind person. Sometimes I think you lack boundaries because you're just too kind. Yeah. Yeah. You know, oh no, this is not directed at you. I'm just like, no, but that's have I opened up before? That was a can of worms.
Yeah, you would. Just... How did you know? Did you read my diary? Yeah. No, that's a good point. And I think if our listeners maybe they're not ready to hear that from someone else, but if we were to do like some inquiry and some journal based work,
So what kind of questions could we ask? You know, what would you ask yourself to identify or uncover whether, you are mentally aware through journal writing? Do you think some questions like, how do I deal with adversity? Do you think along...
So if you try to think of the last time that you felt really challenged with something, what sort of thoughts showed up for you?
Yeah.
Because with that, you uncover some beliefs you hold about yourself. You can watch it, what triggers you, what your reactions were to that, what were the consequences of those reactions, what behaviors came after that. So when you unpack real life things that have happened in journaling form, and you can just freely, put it all on the page, and you can, the biggest thing for me is like, how did I contribute to that situation? How did this outcome happen? What did I do to get this outcome, wanted or unwanted, doesn't matter. Because even in something that feels very obvious that the other person was in the wrong, there's often still something, and not for all examples, but in a lot of cases, there are things that we've done also to contribute to that situation.
Yeah.
Bringing awareness to those is kryptonite, because you can then learn, reflect, grow, and evolve. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, and we talk about what kind of statements would you hear to unpack whether you have mental awareness in mental health, is things like when you hear your kids or your partner or your friends say, you always do that.
Yeah.
But you don't know, or you think you do it.
Yeah.
Write it down, unpack it with yourself separately through meditation or some guided groundwork. What is it that you hear you always?
Yeah. Yeah.
It can be very enlightening.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Because sometimes I'm really like, you have to catch the person at the right time.
Yeah,
when
true.
you are mid-fight
Yeah.
or mid-argument
Yeah.
is not the time to be like, are you aware that you're doing it? Like, really, no. But when I'm in a calm space and a receptive space and a open space, I will hear and I will take on board what someone has to say to me. It's all about the delivery. When I'm activated is not the time to tell me I'm doing anything wrong. I'm going to be in defensive mode.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. But we all know someone that is really...
I've asked my kids this,
What?
especially my eldest. I'll say, what can I do differently that you think that I'm not aware of, that I should do differently? And you know what my eldest said to me? And I was shocked when I heard this, because I was like, that's a problem for me and in my line of work. And he said, you always look for the negative.
So interesting. God, they're so perceptive.
They're so...
Yeah.
You think that they're not understanding.
Yeah.
But they are. You always find it's the negative that you point out.
Yeah.
And it was so enlightening for me, because, yes, absolutely, but that is a learnt trait that I have. That is a generational trait that I have developed. I know I do. And when I'm aware of it, I absolutely 100%, I obviously don't do that in my line of work. And
No. But when
you're with
relaxed,
your
yeah,
close
of course,
friends and your people that you
up.
feel safe with, this is where that sort of stuff shows up. And I was like, wow. He goes, yeah. I was like, give me an example. Or if I'll say something or something about something, you'll find the negative in that. And I don't see myself doing that.
Yeah.
But now that he's brought it up, I'm always, I can see how even though I'm not thinking that, it's just the linguistic that I am using that makes it sound
like that.
And the tone sometimes.
But that was really like very cool that you did that, because knowing that, and in terms of the relationship you have, and I know the relationship you want to nurture with your child, like, what valuable feedback.
Yeah, because now what I find myself doing is I catch myself on that, and I quickly, and this is one of the best things you can do with your partner and your loved ones and whatnot, to develop a better mental health sort of relationship, is just to say, quickly catch yourself and go, okay, I know that sounded really negative.
Yeah.
I didn't mean it the way that must have sounded. What I meant by it is this, but I can see how it would have come across negative. And more often than not, my son will go, thanks for clarifying, because that would have sounded. Because you say things so quickly. Communication, you don't sometimes think about what you're saying. Words just come out of your mouth.
And as a mum, we're in mum mode.
Yes.
You know what Xander said sorry, I shouldn't have said his name, but
Why
what
not?
my eldest
Yeah.
said to me,
Yeah.
he said, you never listen. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Never
Yep.
And then when I thought about it, I'm like, no, he's 100% right.
Yeah.
I'm like, do this and do this.
Yep.
And he's trying to tell me, I don't know, I'm always assuming he's like trying to get out of bedtime or trying to get out of
Yep.
and I have a story about what he's trying to, and it's true. I don't
Yeah.
actually listen. I don't actually
Yep.
listen to you.
Yes, because you're busy, and
Yeah.
you know that for a toddler, yes, okay, their story is so important, but it's so not.
Yeah.
And you're busy, but they can see
Yeah.
your bodily
Signals.
that
Yeah.
you're actually not listening. And that is sometimes very aware, like a mental health awareness of not listening for an adult. You know, there's a lot of people out there that when you're having conversations with your partner, whatever, your friends, and you can see that they're actually not listening. They're busy on their phones or they're looking away. Unless you know that they've got ADHD or that their traits are that they've always been like that, but they're actually listening because they can converse and ask you questions. But it's when you can see that and when you can understand that and when you're being told that and when you can also accept that and do something about that and not take offense, that's when things change for you.
Agreed. And I think like we will leave it there.
Yeah.
I'll just finish on this last point, which is in light of all of this self-awareness talk, and we really encourage people to do that. There are a lot of like self-awareness journals online. You can Google prompts yourself, but we'll touch some too.
Yeah,
There's a whole lot
absolutely.
that I use and I'll put on there. But the whole idea is not to be perfect people.
No.
This is not. And really more important than this is the fact that we are malleable, we are changeable.
Growth
We
mindset.
can grow.
Yeah.
The idea is to bring awareness and to allow our connections with our children, with our partners, with colleagues, with our friends to be allowed to be vulnerable and to connect more. My eldest and your eldest pointing these things out allows us to lean into those relationships even more deeply.
Feel the discomfort.
Yeah.
And
show
move
up for
forward.
it.
Yeah.
And just going back to the start of the podcast where we're talking about taking responsibility, this is not to take on your fair share of overtake your fair share of responsibility. This is to put the power and control back in your hands on how you want to handle it, how you want to show up for something.
Exactly.
Okay? And if we can't see how we contribute to a situation, okay, this is problematic because really no one can have a fight with themselves, no one can have an argument with themselves, any type of conflict takes two people in some level. So being able to be willing to be vulnerable and to examine self and to reflect on how we are can help us enormously in all of the relationships that we have in our life in various forms.
Well said.
Thank you.